Welcome back, everyone, to the Aftermath, the LPL recap. We are here in Split 2, of course, about 4 weeks in on episode number 8 of this season and this split, of course. And we're very excited to see what can be done because the Rumble stage is starting to get very, very interesting. Of course, myself, I am here, Orbital. With me is Ferris, and Yanni, unfortunately, could not join us. He has been so busy. If you have not been watching the LPL English broadcast, he has been an absolute killer on the mic, consistently showing up, even pulled for some of the official tweets out there. Maybe they should keep the LPL English side. I don't know, maybe that's something the Riot should do. Right now, though, we are going to be going over some of the matches that we had over the past 6 to 7 days, which have been very interesting, surprising, and at other points disappointing. Ferris, how you doing today?
Orbital, I'm doing pretty good, man. LPL has been really exciting. CLOL as well has been exciting. I've done a couple casts for that as well over this last week. I've loved that. But yeah, it's crazy to think that after all these games in what you call the Rumble stage, Group Ascend, Group Nirvana, and I just realized this morning, we're only halfway through, which is crazy. And for a lot of this stuff we saw, like you said, things are changing. Big things have happened for some of these bottom middle of the pack teams. And if you've been writing them off because they've been losing a bunch of games at the start, well, don't write them off anymore. Quite literally, even the teams at the very bottom with good performances in this latter half can be top 6, can make playoffs, can make a break for even as far as the very top spots in Ascend. And maybe not so much Nirvana, as Nirvana is single round robin, which is why those games have been so far and few in between. But a lot of good stuff here, Orbital, which we'll get into in a sec.
Of course, and let's talk about the first thing that has actually stayed a little bit consistent for us on the day from week 3 to week 4 here. We've actually had the top about 4 spots stay relatively solidified. Top Esports, Anyone's Legend, IG, as well as JDG. They've all gone ahead and continued to stay at the top, albeit at little different functions. We were expecting them, I think, to kind of break away a little bit faster, but the fact that JDG are currently sitting at 4 and 3, only moved up in a singular set series win, kind of makes me a little bit worried about this 4th, 5th, and 6th positions.
Yeah, it's a really big. I want to say. I think the term I heard Grapes and Hawk over on Salty Runback say, and I don't know if they invented it, but they said a soup. They when they talk about the NACL, I think that term is very applicable for the LPL in that bottom portion as well. I think there's 2 different kind of clusters of areas in the standings where you have a hard time reading what the actual power level of these teams are. I think the definitive top 2, I would say we have TES and we have AL. That's in the standings in records, and that's also in just how good I think those teams actually are, even though AL suffered the loss to JDG just recently. But I think the 3 to 5 spots, the 6 to 8 spots, and I actually think, well, in the standings, FPX and Team We have moved up from that 9-10 spot. Now they're in that 7-8. And even Weibo, who's been struggling and has taken a loss to both WE and FPX, like we don't know, like how well are they going to perform? How consistent can they stay? Who's actually better than who? It's like a circle of suck for a lot of these areas in the standings. But I think the most definitive thing you can say, Thunder Talk, NIP, I guess if we start there, down at the bottom, these 2 have been the really big disappointing teams, especially now that we're getting through this halfway point. Again, could still pick it up in the latter half and bring it back, but they are really starting to fall behind.
Yeah, and let's talk about them, because I think that is a very good point. There were a lot of hopes around Thunder Talk earlier on NIP as well in the earlier stages back in Split 1, but there was one major shift that I think a lot of analysts and a lot of viewers are kind of sitting back and saying, okay, this might have contributed. The lane swap situation right in the middle, right before I believe we turned over into the Rumble stage, we did have the change up of the swap positions. No longer will lane swaps yield as large benefits as before. It used to have a lot more benefits than they do now. I believe we still have lane swaps here and there, specifically for grub takes and all. But I want to get your thoughts on this, because Ferris, do you believe that the lane swap changes are the primary reason for NIP and Thunder Talk to be at this lower standing? Because as you said, they are currently sitting at that very bottom position, 9th and 10th.
Yeah, I think you could make a strong case for Thunder Talk, specifically because Hoya is more known to be a less resources or a top laner that thrives on less resources and can still make use of himself even when he doesn't have all the gold in the world. That's kind of the way he kind of operates. He's never the top laner you think to be the guy that now having to have a whole lot of laning prowess, having to go toe to toe with the likes of the monster top laners that are in the LPL, he's not really going to be the one to go crazy. So it doesn't necessarily suit him. But I also think that it's not entirely the whole story for both of these teams, especially not NIP, where I feel like Shanji can thrive or has been able to thrive before in
Mhm.
non-lane swap metas. And obviously bot lane is also involved in this thought here. But I just feel like their overall level of play has dropped. For NIP, it's just been inconsistent play. You know, they go from being swept by who we thought were bottom teams to taking a game off of top esports.
Yeah.
But even that game, they should have actually stomped that game number two. They ended up almost throwing it completely. They brought it back just to get slammed in game number three. They just cannot bring out a consistent performance. Now you would actually say that okay, they're not consistent, but that's better than a team that is always bad. But now
Mhm.
with what's happened with FPX and Team WE, there is no team that consistently sucks in Group Ascend because every team has had their big moments. So NIP, Thunder Talk, these teams have been the most consistently bad. They have the worst records.
Yeah.
And I don't know, they're just not playing like themselves, whether it's because of lane swaps, whether they've just fallen off a cliff and for some reason they were riding a high in split one. It's just not there anymore.
Yeah, and I think you lead into the next point very, very appropriately. It might be that turn, and maybe they're not as bad as we assume, although they are losing. But the fact that the rest of the teams are starting to step up here in this moment, and we have to talk about the one that a lot of us had written off. You talked about it earlier as well. I think everyone has, and it's been such a weird trend, right? Team WE, originally 0-4, in the last week alone, have kind of gone from 0 to here as they played 5 matches so far in this last week. And of the 5 of them, they've won 3 of them. And not only that, in some of their losses looked really good. I mean, what was it? Saturday night or Saturday, we got to see them face up against anyone's legend. They actually took a game off them.
They did. And they've taken games off of other top teams as
Of
well.
course, yeah.
It's been like 3, 4 top teams that WE were taking games off of. And this was our hint at their ability to actually spike up. It happened first with FPX, with FPX's win over JDG, and then they beat Weibo. And it was just took Team We a little bit longer to blossom. And it finally happened against the Thunder Talk. That was really struggling. They got the
Yep.
2-0. They're finally starting to fight a lot better as a team. I think Monkey has finally now gotten a little bit into his groove. He is still a very big enter when he wants to int, and he really likes to just go way ahead of his team and kind of run it down sometimes. But I think he's been a really strong player for the squad. I think he's had a lot or been a part of a lot of their successful plays. He's very aggressive. I think Vampire is starting to make a lot of better decisions. Cube has been the rock in the top lane. Karis and Taeyun are starting to have more consistent carry performances. Team WE is just starting to get better. And just this past day today, able to actually take down FPX 2-1 after those string of 2 games that they had the win over Thunder Talk,
Yeah.
the next win over Weibo. They are really on an upward spiral here and really making a case for that 7, 6th place spot, even breaking into the top 6, maybe breaking into like even higher. Who knows? The sky's the limit for them right now. It's pretty insane. FPX, they just took that loss, but still on that upward trend, and they found new life in this sort of second quarter of Group Ascend.
Yeah, I mean, we are talking about Team WE, but we do also have to give credit to FPX. FPX were sitting at 2-4 in the earlier stages, and yes, as you mentioned, they lost to Team WE without not without being thrilling, right? 2-1 is always a very, very fun time, and it was very interesting to watch. But they have also started to make their steps forward. They were able to take a singular series, I believe, and it was a test of the ages for them. They still have a lot to work on, but it's chances above. They're still rising above. They still have 3 wins total here. And their next few matches are going to be interesting to watch. Now, we do have to take into question. I know you were talking about, the skies are the limit for the likes of like FPX or Team WE, but let's be realistic here. If we did have to put a limit, I know you talked about like 6th or 7th, but if you had to put a limit on these two, I mean, I'm not putting them further than 5th. I'll be very, very honest. Like, they might be able to even they have a better chance at making it into 6th, but like, do you realistically see either of these teams making it into like a 3rd or 4th position?
No, I don't think so either.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, there's been outside of top esports and anyone's legend. Again, AL just lost to JDG, but I get we can still consider JDG, even though they took back to back to back losses. Now they're
Hmm.
starting to get back to where they are. I think I'm gonna have to agree with you. Six, seven, maximum five, like top five at that five spot is probably where they plateau. I think on a team like BLG, their lowest of lows, maybe not their lowest of lows, but when they're not playing well, can lose to Team WE, who is playing very well. And IG can lose to FPX when they aren't playing well. But IG did get a 2-0 over WE. And, normally we wouldn't bat an eye at that. But the fact that WE has been taking games and sending top teams to 3 games shows that IG can still be at that top level and put them to bed quite handedly. And I think they did have a pretty massive comeback in one of those games, though. But still, a win is a win. A 2-0 is a 2-0. I think if IG and BLG, AL and Test definitively, as long as they aren't
Yep.
imploding, they're always going to be. I think they just have the firepower to be better. As of the expectations of this year, maybe these players grow into superstars as of 2026, 2027. But within the confines of this season, yes, I agree. It's probably going to be a 5-6. And the spot that they're in now with the wins that they've had is it's about the best you would hope for because we had
Yeah.
these teams going in eighth, ninth. Like they're not going to take any wins and look at them right now.
True. I mean, that is a very fun way to put it. It's just like, hey, look, at least it's better than what we expected. You're at least meeting and exceeding expectations. Now, are you going to reach the level of, I don't want to say competency, but it is a little bit better. Now, let's also talk about someone that has stuck around in that middle of the pack, BLG. BLG starting to look like that stalwart kind of. Yanni put it best, I think, as the gatekeeper of the top four. You're sitting there at that fifth position. You're currently locked in with JDG, who in their own has had some struggles as you were talking about, but for BLG, it's just like, we want to see more out of them, in my opinion, but they're doing a great job kind of holding down the fort.
You want to see more if you're a BLG fan, you're coming off of the World Finals spot, 1 game away from being world champions. Obviously, it's not the same team. Obviously, there's been some rumors floating around that they're looking
Yeah.
for a new jungler to replace Wei, whether that happens or not. The fact of the matter is BLG, despite still being in that tied for fourth spot with JDG, they don't look like the same BLG that was quite literally the LPL team in 2024. No one came close to touching the level of this team. It feels like if we're gonna look at specific players, Ben has not been on to his usual dominant level. He's still a great player and still among the top in the LPL, but he just has not been able to replicate, at least in my opinion, so far in 2025, this upper echelon of play that he is known for as this megastar in the top lane globally. I think Elk still has had some really solid performances. Knight is as consistent as always, but that level of early game dominance has been lost when they aren't playing with Shun. He was more known for that role with this team. They're not wiping games really quickly. Their team fighting is
Yeah.
still solid. I think On had a really nice series in their most recent one against NIP. So I think there's a world where we can't forget about BLG. There is a world where they are back to their form and can contest for the top. But as of now, they have to shift into that gear where they are actually destroying teams, similar to how top esports is dominant this year. That's where we need to see BLG get back to. Right now, they just haven't done that. I think we need to see a bigger step up from Ben. I think Elk and Knight need to get back to their consistent 1v9 performance, similar to how Scout and Pays on JDG are kind of 1v9ing every game when JDG's winning. If they can get back there, if Wei can get into a consistent form, On can get into a consistent form, BLG, still a scary team, still a contender.
Yeah, that's going to be a chance for BLG. And I mean, sticking with Group Ascent just for the last moment, I want to give some love out to Weibo Gaming. Weibo had some of the biggest moments and then some of the worst moments, I feel, in there, right? We talk a lot of praise for Team WE with their grind. I know we just talked about the fact that they won against WBG, but man, did it hurt for any of the Weibo Gaming fans out there when you see them take down JDG earlier in the week, and then see them falter at the end. Yes, both were 2-1s and 1-2, in the victory and losses, but man, so much open there, and then just kind of like, dang, really, that's how we go out in the week.
Yeah, no, Weibo, definitely to me. So I think all the way back when Group Ascend started, you, Yanni, and I talked about, okay, FPX, Team WE, we're going to say are our bottom two. Who are the next two out of the top six? It's going to be Thunder Talk and it's going to be NIP. So far with the standings, Weibo is hovering around that number six spot. I think earlier when they were on that string of losses that they had, I had them down. I mean, they were in that bottom portion of the standings. I would have had them down in my just genuine ranking of the power of these teams. I would have had them down there lower. They did lose to FPX. They've looked shaky. There's been a couple games where Light has had to just bail this team out with his play. I think he's been the most consistent member. I don't think Xiaohu has had a fantastic split. He's had some real stinker games, and they need a player of his caliber to step up for them to be a top team. They need Tian to be consistent. Breathe has done a pretty good job himself, and now they've swapped up the support roles as well. They took out Hong, they're trying out Urha. Again, I don't have the best read of how that swap has actually went, but they're able to pick up wins. But coming off just the most recent loss, it's still shaky for them.
Yep.
And I think sixth place is the best spot to put them in. It's where they are in the standings. Are they better than the top five? Absolutely not. Can I see them beating a top five team? Yes, but right now it's like a coin flip with the way that they're playing. And this is kind of a common theme amongst a lot of these LPL teams. It's just, can they hit a consistent stride? And I think a
Yep.
lot of that has to be around both Xiaohu and Tian. I think Light has played really well, but those other two, they have to be consistent factors. I think Breathe is still a solid rock up in the top lane, but I need to see more out of Xiaohu and Tian.
Yeah, would you say Weibo Gaming though are the largest coin flip team right now, or do you assume that's someone else? Because to me,
No,
WBG are fairly up there in terms of like, hey, what can go wrong? I know Team WE have given us a show, but I still don't think they're in there to really coin flip everything just yet.
no, I think the biggest coin flip team in LPL, for a
Or at
while
least
I
in Group
thought it was
Ascend, we'll say.
IG.
Group Ascend, right?
Yeah, Group Ascend. I would say it's either IG or NIP, but the fact that NIP is just down at the bottom right now from where they used to
Yeah.
be, and the fact that they have taken a win off of IG, they would be that. But yeah, Weibo 3 and 4. I think they can do better. I think this roster
Mm.
is capable of more.
Okay, okay. So the fact that they have the abilities in there and the game's still, consistency in spots where it is. I'm surprised that you gave IG that kind of coin flip status though. That you were saying like in the upper echelons they're up there because I mean they stood relatively, and granted we only saw one match out of them this week, but um what do you feel like that coin flip status is going to continue on? Because again, like this is where we turn the corner, right? This is where the next set of matches, that rerun, that run it back moment starts to come up once we hit week 5.
Yeah, I think IG has definitely done better. I think they look monumentally better in Split 2 than they did in Split 1.
Yeah.
In Split
But
1, it
coin
felt
flip
like they
worthy?
were. Yeah, I think so. I think they've had some games where they look very coordinated as a team and they
Mm.
look like a dominant force. And then other times it's like it's the classic saying, chickens with their heads cut off. Like the Shy's playing Nidalee top. I hate that pick, by the way. I've seen Flandre play it as well for AL. I think that's the most useless pick in the world. That doesn't have anything to do with like the team's performance, but like I don't know. Sometimes it really just feels like they aren't there.
Mm.
And again, I'll go back to the conversation about AL and about top esports. It feels like they aren't quite at those two teams level.
Mm.
Again, we'll forget about first stand with Test. They're not at those two teams level of dominance and consistent levels of performance yet. But I think IG, I think it's right for you to kind of say, do we really call them coin flip anymore? Because they actually have performed really well in Split 2, now 5 and 3. I was just thinking a lot about, looking back at Split 1, we were so excited for this team. They bomb out in the first round to the eventual champions, and to give Test credit, they played really well. But I think again, we expected more from them, and I think with the way that their split has gone, they've had a couple big losses, a couple big wins. Like they almost lost to JDG. Like they kind of pulled that out of
True.
their ass too, because it was a 1 HP Nexus. So you just don't know entirely with this team what you're gonna get.
Okay, you know what? I can agree with that one. You know what? When you're on 1 HP on the Nexus and that's how things roll out. All right, listen, you kind of convinced me there, but we will have to see as a course as it leads further on. Group Ascend, everyone keeps in mind that they will have a chance to play for their playoff spot. Now, granted, the Knights plan will be very interesting to watch for those bottom teams. And we do have to keep in mind there's going to be 2 more joining them from Group Nirvana, which honestly, Group Nirvana has had one of the largest shakeups that we've seen over this past week. I mean, we got to talk about it. Top of the standings, still staying the same. LGD still up there. But right behind them, this shift is coming about. And keep in mind, it is single elimination, but The bottom five now feel a little bit more like soup. However, the bottom dredge has really kicked into high gear here.
Nirvana again, it's only single elimination. There's still a good chunk of games left to play for a lot of these teams, like Ultra Prime and RNG have only played two. RNG themselves are 0-2, but they've played Ultra Prime and LGD, who I had going into this as the
Mhm.
top two teams in Nirvana. LGD has proven me correct. Ultra Prime have not, because the biggest shock of Nirvana is LNG is winning games now,
Yeah.
and OMG
What?
feels like the new undisputed worst team in the LPL. They've made two jungle substitutions. They subbed out Weiwei, they brought in 5T5, they subbed out 5T5, and they've brought in a new jungler, Xiao Fong, who is now 2-0 with them. So something is working. I applaud LNG for trying to make these adjustments happen.
Yeah.
EDG is 2-0. I don't think they've been tested yet. They haven't been able to pull out a big
Mhm.
win against any of the upper echelon teams. I think their wins are against LNG and OMG. So until they can beat an LGD, until they can beat an Ultra Prime, I'm not ready to kind of say like this team is legit yet. And then I'm also not ready to write off Ultra Prime after the LNG loss. So again, like you
Mhm.
said, soup questions. We need, yeah. I mean, I guess that's the nature of only being halfway through.
Yeah, but here's the deal. It's a lot closer right there, right? As we talked about, it's single elimination, and really we're not worried about third and fourth. We don't care about that. We care about first and second. That's exactly what we have to look at. So excuse me. If you're looking as an LNG fan, what is the best outcome? Do we see them actually take over? Do we see them actually aim for LGD's place? Like, do we expect this team, considering what we've seen in this past week, do we think they had the fire to make it into the top two? Because I know you just said EDG, like they still haven't faced a lot of tougher opponents, but remember, it doesn't matter about how comfortable you are there. It's just, can you make that second place? Can you say, and with your wins, be able to comfortably sit at that second place?
Yeah, it's definitely going to be, it's going to be a tough one. I have to think about who LNG has actually played here, which I can take a look at here in a second, and who their last remaining matchups are, because they have played four. They only have two left, and so
Hmm.
their absolute best is 4-2, which would be a pretty solid result for them. So I'm going to take a look at who their actual last opponents are next, if I can find their team. Here it is. So far, they have played EDG, where they lost. They've
Hmm.
played LGD, who is, again, top team. I would expect them to lose there.
Yep.
Then they beat Ultra Prime. I think Ultra Prime is really good. They get the win over OMG, who I think is the worst right now. So far, they have yet to play RNG, who has taken both Ultra Prime and LGD to 3 games. I think that's going to be probably their next toughest opponent.
Mm.
But with the way they're playing now, maybe they are able to pull out that win. So yeah, it's RNG for them. They've already beat OMG. Actually, it's only 1 game left. They don't have 2 games left. I'm thinking they're going to play 6 games. They
Yeah,
have
that's
RNG.
that's what
That's
I'm
it.
saying. All they have is
Yeah,
one more, and
exactly.
so it's like you're sitting there
Yeah,
going. Realistically, it can be there, but it feels like EDG are the ones that are sitting there going, "Hey, this could be that gate." I mean, do we actually see LNG proving every naysayer wrong and just being like, "Hey, we're going into that night's play"? I think that to them is like that goal, right? They're not even worried about making the playoffs bracket.
right.
They're quite literally like,
Yeah.
just get us in the play-in. We didn't expect to be here in the play-in. We've already, I think they've already surpassed the goal. Also, remember, being eliminated from split 2 and 3. That was the whole goal that they didn't want to have kind of hanging over their head the whole time.
Yeah, it's true. And having 2 wins right now is it's very good for your chances to not be eliminated for split
Yeah.
three. It's solid for top two, but pretty much even OMG right now could still get into that fourth and third spot
Hmm.
to save their split. So a lot of games to play. I still don't think that'll happen. I think OMG is definitely going to be out. Beyond that, I think RNG has more to give, and they are definitely capable of beating LNG, EDG, and OMG. Ultra Prime only has 2 games played, similar to RNG. They've got a couple more to go. It's going to be interesting, but this is a fantastic look for LNG, and it makes Nirvana a lot more exciting rather than if it really just was OMG, LNG that are the two stinkers.
Oh yeah, that has to be said, and I'll be very interested to see how exactly this kind of continues on here because for me, I'm just sitting here like I always love a good underdog story. The fact that LNG have already blown away expectations in Split 2. You talked about the functionality of trying out different junglers in there, just trying out what pieces work, and they just slammed pieces into this puzzle and finally found out right one that kind of gets their victories in. It's a wild stance for them, so I'm very excited to see how much further they can go. But with that, we already have that shakeup inside of that Rumble stage. As we talked about, both Group Ascend and Group Nirvana will be kind of solidified here into weeks 5 and 6. I believe Group Nirvana will be solidified by the end of week 7. I'm pretty sure. I don't think the last 2 weeks will really cause that much change. As we already mentioned, top teams, if LGD go ahead and get one more victory, they're locked into top 2. Same with EDG. I think the biggest obstacle for them, of course, they still have 3 more games to play. So even if they get one, they're pretty much out of the bottom side. So a lot of thoughts there. But Group Ascend, I mean, you and I are going to be sitting there like, now that we have kind of gone over that, looking forward for the next week of games, which matchup are you most excited to see here? Because, we're starting to round out once again. Group Ascend is starting to kick back and have a lot of fun there. So what matchup in the next week are you really looking forward to, Ferris?
Well, I'm going to take a look through them now. And
Yeah, we
Ultra
don't look at
Prime,
these beforehand. We there are so
no,
many games that it's like
no.
painful to try and guess exactly which one we want.
Ultra Prime, just to start off, the first game tomorrow is Ultra Prime
Sure.
and EDG. For Group
Yep.
Nirvana, this is big. EDG is 2-0. If they get that win, again, they might even be locked into top 2. Ultra Prime coming off the loss to LNG, that's a team that they should have beat. Realistically, LNG has
Yep.
looked really bad. And so taking a loss to them means you have very little room for error. This is a big game for both of those teams. I'd watch out for that one tomorrow. We have a top of the table matchup between JDG and Top Esports the following day. That's another 3 series day. That's very exciting just in terms of fan service. It's 2 really good teams going at it. And if JDG can take down Top Esports, I think a lot of the rust that they've accumulated from their previous losses are gone because they've beaten the top
Yeah.
team. Weibo versus IG will be good as well because it's time for Weibo to start taking games off of top teams. They've already won against JDG. Now IG, that I feel like, again, has had a pretty good split too. If they can grab that win again, it'll propel them up further. The LNG games, the last LNG game there is going to happen. I think that's very exciting. There's a
Yep.
whole lot. There is definitely a whole lot here to look out for. And you know what? We're getting to the point where when things are closing in, every game actually starts to matter a whole lot now.
Yeah, well, listen, you listed about 7 of the matches, 7 of like the 9 matches that we're gonna see. You have to pick one. I asked you for one, Ferris. We as play-by-play sometimes have a hard time counting. Which
Can't do it.
match?
Because
Which
I came
one?
across one, and I was like, that one's going to be good. And then I kept scrolling, and I was like, that one's also going to be good and is really, really important.
It just keeps going and going
There's
and
a lot
going,
of
and we're just like,
matches.
Welcome to the only problem the LPL has. We have too many matches to pick up here. I gotta agree, though, taking a look there, the fact that literally in just a few hours we are going to see EDG going up against Ultra Prime, and that one will be a lot of fun to watch for. And there are so many more as well. As you said, for me, I'm taking a look. I mean, I really do look forward to the JDG versus Top Esports one, mainly because JDG dropping a series recently. I'm curious if that was a one-up mistake, right? To me, it's always whenever I see a team like that kind of fumble, it makes me scared. Honestly, like I want to see JDG, continue to rise up, not let that trip them up. Which granted, they're in the top standings already, so they're not too worried. But eyes out for that one. Ferris, it's been a good week. I'm excited for this conclusion of week number 4. Technically, week 4 ends, I believe, this Sunday, and so that'll be the end of those games. And then week 5 will commence on Monday. Any final thoughts here? Because I mean, like we got Yanni's thoughts in there. I mean, he was talking about the WBG victories and losses in there as his big upsets or kind of a fun series. And any thoughts in terms of what you think the following week will bring?
Well, just keep your eyes out for, I guess, Weibo, or sorry, not Weibo. Keep your eyes out for Team WE and FPX. See what they're able to do. Those are some really 2 interesting stories to keep following. That their ascension, mostly Team WE, who's on the 3-game win streak. Keep your eyes out to see if AL and Top Esports are able to be dethroned from that top 2. And yeah, we'll see what happens with LNG in Group Nirvana. I think those are going to be the 3 interesting stories. Support the LPL English as well. We got Slayer,
Yes.
who's been on here before. Obviously, Yanni, who is now sleeping, but killed the cast earlier this morning. Probably sleeping right now
Man
to
works more than
recover from
us,
all of
Ferris.
that.
He works so hard, I swear.
Absolutely. Yeah, so support them and everything the LPL English is doing if you are ending up watching these games, even if you're watching the VODs. I think OPLOL Replay on YouTube posts the highlights and they post
Yeah.
all the LPL English VODs. So that's another way that you can kind of support them, kind of listen in. But yeah, this LPL season Orbital, it's the craziest it's ever been in terms of the amount of games. And I genuinely think with the way things have been going, we do have like 4 or 5 contenders for this title come the time when playoff rolls around, but not quite there yet. But it's definitely going to be something to keep your eyes out for.
Yeah, it'll be a good time. And of course, if you like what we do here, and of course, a little bit of our silliness, our own thoughts, our sometimes terrible thoughts, and sometimes our surprise reactions to how the match goes, go ahead and like us down below. Go ahead and please give us a follow as well. Eventually, we might even do something more if you guys enjoy and want to see more of these recaps and, see what the LPL has to offer. But you can't catch all the games if you're in, the North American side of things. You can't always wake up at like 2 or 4 in the morning. Go ahead, give us a follow. We'll go ahead and recap all the matches and hopefully give you a very good show at the same time. Thank you so much for watching the Aftermath. We'll go ahead and see you next week on Friday for another. See y'all later.